Good morning, everyone. It looks like we've got a small but mighty group here today. We are recording this session, however, for those who might have found themselves in a different concurrent session. We know sometimes it's hard to select which one to go to when there's so many competing workshops that are all going to provide great information. So we're happy to have you here this morning. My name is Summer Steele. I serve as the director for CalSoap San Bernardino County Consortium.
And my name is Matthew Elder. I'm the director for the CalSoap Riverside County Consortium. Welcome.
Fantastic. And if you would just place your name and your organization and what you hope to gain from the presentation in the chat, that would be really helpful to us as well. So again, just your name, your organization, and what you'd like to gain from this workshop in the chat. Also, if you have any questions as we're going through the presentation, please feel free to just drop them in the chat and we will address them at that time. Or if you'd like to hold on to them, we will have some time at the end to answer all of your questions. So just a bit of background on CalSoap. There are 17 consortiums that run throughout the state of California. We are funded through the California Student Aid Commission. Us here in the Inland Empire are the two newest to join the CalSoap consortium directors and projects in the region. We were just added in 2020. And while all of the projects operate a little bit differently, the overarching goal of all CalSoaps is to make sure that students and families are getting the information that they need to be able to make informed decisions about their future as far as post-secondary education, and to make sure they have the knowledge to know to be able to apply for their financial aid and those sorts of pieces as well, so that they can fund their future. With that, I'm going to hand it off to my colleague, Matt, to talk about some of the strategies that have been really effective in helping students and families complete their financial aid applications and the importance behind it.
All right, so definitely we want to go into the why. Why do we do the work that we do supporting the students that we serve? So in the Riverside County Consortium, we service first generation, foster youth, homeless, low student, socioeconomically disadvantaged students. So we're focusing on students that really need a lot of support because they may or may not have been heard about their options for after post-secondary. So we focus a lot on financial aid, but with our consortium, we also focused on a lot of college applications and post-secondary planning. So the why, so when we go to the next slide, so with Form Your Future and FAFSA Tracker, what you can do is by clicking on the link below, which we can do later, we just won't have time for today's presentation, but this presentation will be made available to you. You can go on Form Your Future with the FAFSA Tracker and you can see where your state, you can filter it down to your city, district, and school level rankings on Form Your Future. So just so you know, with last year, California was ranked 21st in the United States for financial aid completion. As you can see, between the month of March and July to August, we were 14th, 16th, 17th, and then went up to 21st. As we started, we were ranked 42nd at the beginning, and then kind of took off towards the deadline. And right after the deadline, as things were being cleaned up with errors on student applications. So as you can see, Tennessee, Louisiana are the nation leaders for financial aid completion. They do have it as a state requirement, and we do know that that is being presented in California with the governor's budget and moving towards that for the state of California. Next slide. So how do you apply for financial aid? The one thing that a lot of people need to put into their vocabulary is it's not just FAFSA. When you say that, you leave out a whole population of our California Dreamers, our DREAM Act, because if a student has a social security number, they'll do the FAFSA. If they don't, they'll do the California DREAM Act. So it's better to use the vocabulary of financial aid applications, or if you do say FAFSA, say and California DREAM Act, because you need to have inclusion for all populations. So definitely it depends on which application your student is qualified to apply for, but they both serve the same purpose in getting them the student aid for their college applications and post-secondary planning. Okay, so we utilize in our area in Riverside County, we utilize California colleges, which CCGI, a lot of people across the state have their CCGI agreements with their districts and their county offices. So we utilize CCGI for everything. our applications are launched through CCGI. They do have a new My Financial Aid Plan tool that they have launched this fall that will be utilized by our consortium starting October 1st when we have our college kickoff in our county. So we launch everything through CCGI. One of the advantages of launching everything through CCGI, the students get a lot of information. They have the interest profiler. They have the different college building. They can build their college search college list. They can do major search tools. They can do their college search tool. They can narrow it down and filter down based on what they're interested in. There is grade level lessons that CCGI provides that a lot of the schools in our district are utilizing per grade level to educate our students. And with the students needed the education on financial literacy and their education on post-secondary planning, all of the tools in CCGI allow these students to gain valuable information. It allows the staff to get an insight on how to incorporate this into their lesson planning. It also gives an insight on how we can track the data. So as students launch everything through California colleges, we are able to track the data of how many CSU applications each student has applied for and what's the title of the schools. Same thing with the UCs and the community colleges. We can track where they have applied to, or are they in progress? Is it pending? Did they complete everything? Also, we can launch all of our financial aid applications through here, and we can cross-reference that data with web grants to see. So if our schools and our students are not launching through California colleges, it's a disadvantage because you're not able to track that valuable data that guides your program or your goals at your district, schools, or regions. So us in Riverside County, we utilize California colleges for everything. We have a really, really strong partnership with them, and the students are able to track their activities as they utilize California colleges. So we're in the middle right now of making sure all of our accounts are registered for our students. They're doing the different milestones and getting ready for October with all of our consortium districts. So matching with the college application. When we utilize CCGI, next slide, please. So what we're able to do is we're able to track each student. So this is just a snapshot of what we're able to track. We can track the students. Are they in progress or have they completed a CSU application? The number of CSU college applications that have been submitted for each student through CCGI, and we get the titles of the schools. So as our college success coaches, we have college students that are working at the various high schools in our consortiums. And so what they do is they mentor the students on everything post-secondary. And as they meet with the students, they can see which applications those students have applied for. We help them many times with those applications. And so what we do is it starts a conversation of when they get their student aid report back, which schools are they able to afford, what's the best college fit and match based on the majors that they want, are they in special programs that they want to go to, which schools might be impacted for what they're looking for. So it provides options, also gives them a chance to visit those schools during the different breaks that they have to try to see where they want to go. They could have visited the school during their junior year before they were a senior, and that's why they applied to that school. And so it just gives you many, many options. When you go to the next slide, it'll show you also the UC college applications. So definitely you can see which ones are submitted to UC. It could be a local UC like UC Riverside for us. It looks like this student applied, the very one at the very top, applied to 4 UCs, UC Riverside, UC Berkeley, UCLA, and UC San Diego. So you definitely have those conversation starters that allow you to work with the student through their college planning goals and through the system. So this is valuable information. If we didn't utilize CCGI, we would not have access to this information. And we get it updated every week. So every Tuesday, we get a new report of the application process, where they're at, in progress or submitted, the name of the schools, and how many applications. So through the college application season, this is valuable for us because it kind of guides the work that we're doing. So that also goes along with financial aid. So with financial aid, with the californiacolleges.edu, we launch our financial aid through there, but we also utilize that with our cross-reference using web grants reports. So we utilize both so we can kind of see where our students are at. And with the different reports that we get, we can see if they're a no app, have they completed an application, did they start an application, is there an error with their application. So it kind of guides the work that we're doing with financial aid. I just took a snapshot of what we utilize just to see how our students are doing with their financial aid status. This is updated every week. our college success coaches and our school sites utilize this data. So we are in concurrent communication with our school sites to talk about them. They're like, my data says this, Matt, what does your data say? So we can have those conversations and get them, those students applied so that they can get that free money because California has left over $500 million on the table annually based on students just not applying for financial aid. So utilizing the CCGI tools, using web grants, which we'll talk about later on as well, utilizing those data sets is what we do in our county just to make sure that we are in the know of where our students are at. Okay, next slide. Okay, web grants. So web grants is huge. Next slide. With web grants, it allows high schools. All high schools are required to upload their GPA data files for consideration for the category A, B, and C, California law. So the question you want to have when you go to your school sites or your regions or your districts is who's completing this task at the school site? The October 1st is the deadline. A lot of the student information systems have this already embedded where they can export the CSV file and they can upload it to web grants. Who has administrative access? So you submit a search and edit the GPA data. It also allows access and download commission policy memos and alerts. You can print your Cal Grant awardees and other reports anytime. So who's monitoring these reports and how often? So you definitely want to verify student high school graduation dates. This is just an example of a graduation date. So you want to make sure those graduation dates are on for each school site. But there's different questions of who's monitoring this web grants information at each of the school sites with the area and region that you work in. Okay, so with web grants, there is a website. So when you get this presentation, definitely just type in web grants and it'll show up. So that you just go to the website. With your access forms, there's access forms for each user at the school sites that you have to turn in. You will have a login. They will give you a login if the password does reset. So you can see the main page. There's user administration. Aries has the non-SSN GPA upload, application matching, and then with the web grants presentation, there are presentations on YouTube. There are presentations available through CSAC. So you can definitely, if you're not familiar with web grants as much as you'd like, or you would like your school site to be more familiar with it, there is materials that you can definitely look up. And then utilize the reports. So there's an active users report. There's a non-SSN GPA school unmatched report. So you can see which students by school are unmatched. Now this is the school level data. The school level data has this data. If there's a data sharing agreement with the district, then you definitely have that as well, and then the county office as well. And then you have the non-SSN GPA status report. So it tells you where the student currently is, what status they are during their report. The student summary report will tell you if there's any errors on their application and when it was finalized. And then with the non-SSN GPA roster report, it just gives you a roster of all of the seniors for that school site. And then definitely with the web grants report folder, you're just keeping track of your reports. So you definitely want to make sure, because as they get updated, you want to try to keep track of your reports, however system you want to put in play for that. Now, with your access form, who has access at your site or district? 2 members of the site can have administrative access. Usually it's an administrator or a head counselor or a registrar called an career coordinator, but there's 2 people that have administrative access, which means all of their members can have user access. So those administrators can provide user access to those, but these are the people that can download reports. They transform web grants report to Google Sheets, so more user friendly for the school site. So they'll just do like an internal list of students, and then they'll just see if they're done with their FAFSA. They'll just put yes or no on their Google Sheet. So it just keeps track of how many times you've met with the students. A lot of them put it in their counseling notes on their student information system. So it's just a way to track where the students are at in progress with their financial aid. So when you get this presentation, you can click on the access form from CSAC. You can also put that in the Google, and you can look that up and find the access forms on the CSAC website. So progress monitoring. Progress monitoring utilizing data. So you have your internal data with your web grants reports. A lot of schools have their like Google Sheets that they utilize just to track their students' progress. And then the site internal data, as you're pulling up reports for cognitive career indicators, they're pulling up AP, all of the different fields that a lot of schools track with their A through G progress. So they're pulling up a lot of internal data. This goes along with their financial aid and their college applications. It can be merged where you can sit there and see where the student stands and kind of see the story of each student as you're going through your internal data processes, and then your external data systems used for comparison purpose with your internal data. So the rates to submit dashboard, definitely you can look for that. With our RCEC, we have a rates to submit scorecard with our own consortium members, and then Form Your Future, which I showed earlier, and then a national FAFSA tracker. You can look at the different data. Now, each data set has a lag where some it's 2 weeks old data, some of it's that week data. So you got it like on a Tuesday. The school sites can do it daily, where Web Grants is updated usually the first day of every week. So it's normally one. Sometimes it's on a Thursday, Friday, so it might be 2 days a week. It just depends on how those reports are being pushed out. So you can see where your internal data and your external data kind of match or cross-reference those. Now, with your FAFSA California Dream Act data, you can do your own internal data. So you can kind of try to figure out your own internal data and match it up against rates to submit. So this is just an example of a previous school site. So you have how many have applied, how many completed their application, how many no apps, which means there were 5 students that did not finish their application. No EFC means there were 11 students with errors or something that had to be remediated on their application. There were 6 that were late, which was after the March 2nd deadline, and there were 407 in the senior class. So you can kind of track the data going along, and then according to the rates to submit, you can kind of track where they're at with your internal numbers versus the external numbers, and kind of see how it matches. As you can see, there's a little discrepancy between when it's reported. So it's just trying to keep track of your own internal data for your district, school site, and region, trying to do that. And then this is one of our consortium member high schools a few years ago. This was used from their internal data tracking system. So they were able to track by month where their students stood with completed applications, submitted applications, no app, no AFC, or late. And so many of our schools in our area do this in our region. So they keep their own internal tracking, and it's just taking those numbers and being able to put it into a graph form. But it's very valuable for school board members, it's valuable for the county. So as much data as you can have for each school site in your districts, I'm sure the county offices already have that data, but it just shows what the internal work of each school site is doing. So you can have those strong communication conversations of what data is being tracked and when, because all these different data systems have these different points of when they put the reports out. Okay, and I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Summer.
Thank you, Matt. And Matt is definitely a race to submit all-star. I believe his district has won a couple of years, if I recall. So he's got those banners and just has done really valuable work for his county in race to submit. So just wanted to quickly highlight again race to submit, because this is a tool that's also available through the California Student Aid Commission, just as CalSOAP. And so it's very, very simple to use. Anyone can just click on the link, type in their school district, and it'll show them where they stand currently. It will compare the number of students who've actually applied to the number who've completed. It'll give you percentages. It can compare the previous year to the current year. It can compare school sites and districts. And so it can be a very helpful and motivating tool for your districts to use, or for anyone just to be able to log in and see where you stand. So what it does is it provides the FAFSA and California Dream Act completion and submission rates, the number of Cal Grant applications that have been submitted and completed, the number of students eligible, and then that's great on the backside too, is it doesn't just show you who completed their application, but it also shows you how many of those students had their GPAs verified and then were ultimately awarded received Cal Grants. So it's definitely a very helpful tool. Another is actually Cash for College. So some folks aren't aware that there is a lot of resources and a lot of support for families and students who are trying to complete their financial aid, whether it be FAFSA or their California Dream Act application. Our region has Regional Cash for College, just really they start as soon as October the 1st. There are some that are offered virtually through the California Student Aid Commission. Now that we are back to doing things in person, there are also some in-person events that are being scheduled. So it's quite, it's another really easy tool for families to be able to get the support that they need to complete their application. And we do them in English and Spanish. I've even had them seen complete, done in some of the other common languages such as Arabic and Vietnamese. So there's a lot of resources available again, and I recommend that you refer your families to this website. On the website, it actually shows you, it's like a scroll of all the different dates where there's going to be Cash for College events, so that families and students can get those their questions answered, and really the assistance that they need for completing their financial aid applications, which can be challenging at times. We know it can be a bit confusing. And with that, we are going to turn it over to you to see if there's any questions that you all have.
So you could either put the questions in the chat. I believe you might have the ability to unmute yourself if you want to ask verbally.
Summer, this is Ernie Rios with One Future Coachella Valley. And first of all, I just want to thank you for this outstanding presentation. There's a lot of really great information that was shared here, and just want to thank you. This was just outstanding, and to the team. The question that I had was in regards to the data that's available. I know through the Race to Submit and through the school districts, they have access to that student level data to identify which students have completed or have not completed the FAFSA Dream Act. But my question is, are there data sharing agreements available so that community organizations can support students in that transition from graduating high school and enrolling in post-secondary? I know that that's been a challenge this summer as we're trying to help students that were impacted by the pandemic, making sure that we get more students to complete the financial aid applications. But once they've graduated from high school, it's a challenge to try to engage them. And so I wonder if there's opportunities to be able to access that data, or if there's examples that you might be aware of in this work that develops those partnerships between community organizations, post-secondary, and K through 12 that allows for that data sharing.
So you're referring to just ensuring that after you, as One Future Coachella or any community organization has assisted a student with those steps to complete their college application, complete their financial aid, accept their awards, what actually happens? Do they matriculate into their 4-year or 2-year university or college?
Correct, and very specifically around the financial aid. So in the Coachella Valley, we're still making a push to help students from the graduating high school class of 2020 and 21 with completing their FAFSA and Dream Act applications in the state. But the challenge that we're currently experiencing is that students for those specific classes have since graduated from high school, and there's no direct connection from the K-12 systems to the students, and they're not enrolled in college, and we're trying to support them, but it's a challenge because we don't have access, direct access to data to be able to pinpoint who the students are, so that we can then do follow-up with students, whether it be mailers or calling students. So I wonder if there's an opportunity to be able to access that data through data sharing agreements, whether it be with CSAC, or if there's examples that you've seen that could be leveraged to provide that support.
Matt, do you have any examples or any suggestions?
So with our consortium, we do a lot of the work with our school districts and kind of transitioning with our higher ed partner. We have some work that we do with nonprofits, but it's more CCGI, and we do work with GIA a little bit. What we do is we definitely try to facilitate the work with the higher ed partners that we work with. Like, for example, we have our our College Comeback 2020 initiative that we're working with, where we have students that being able to schedule appointments with our different counselors that are our TCMEs for us in Riverside County, and we were able to help them get assistance to the higher ed partners that we work with. So actually having like a data sharing agreement where we're able to share that data with having a nonprofit person, that's definitely something that I'm not familiar with because we do a lot of it with our high school partners in our area. So definitely that's something I can definitely look into and get back to you with that, Ernie, for that.
Great. I appreciate it. Thank you, Matt.
Any other questions?
Hi, this is Matt with Unite LA. Yeah, great information. Also, Ernie, like here in LA, yeah, we definitely have a lot of challenges getting access to student data. And yeah, I think that's one of our biggest hurdles now. But I'm curious, with the passage of AB 104, which will mandate, financial aid applications, I'm still learning the policy as well, but like, how are you all maybe offering support to districts in your area on how to roll this out? I know Val Verde Unified School District has made this a requirement. And I've had zero luck like reaching out to or getting in contact with someone there to just see how it's been going the past couple of years. But I'm curious what you all have been, working on, what types of conversations you're having with schools, if any, and yeah.
So just so you know, with the governor having his bill, two of the districts in our area, which is Valverde Unified, which we work with, and Parish Union High School District, they both did make it a graduation requirement. They did it years ago with one of the schools in the area, Rancho Verde High School, when the race to submit before it was a graduation requirement in Valverde. So basically the system that Rancho Verde put in place, it went district wide. And then that's where the other districts started pushing it. Riverside County was a huge proponent of pushing that out there with college kickoff and making sure that race to submit was emphasized in the county with web grants being utilized and everybody doing their internal information, working with the County Office of Education so that all of our school districts are making that an infinite emphasis. Dr. Gomez, our Riverside County Superintendent, has a financial literacy initiative as well that goes along with the financial aid for California Dream Act FAFSA. So it is huge in our county. So just so you know, being a former person in Valverde High School, in Valverde Unified at one of the high schools, yeah, there's internal systems that they have for tracking their data. There's internal systems that they have for working with students and parents. There's different workshops and support that they have. Parish Union is the same way, but all of our districts and all of our school sites are putting those systems in place. So the thing is, it's very systematic and what works for your region and your area and your demographics of students that you work with, because each demographic or district may be different, but it's just the message that you get out and the systems you put in play that help improve those numbers and also help the students get the aid that they need.
Similarly for us, we're having very similar conversations with our partner districts. And I will say, and I'm sure that this isn't a surprise to any of you, because this legislation, the implementation is about a year off, folks, I think, are more concerned about the immediate needs right now, right? So you have the independent study piece that just came out that they have, 30 days to get into place. And so the approach that we're taking is let us help you this year because we have some districts with some really relatively low financial aid completion rates. So let us help you this year to see what we can put into place to help increase those numbers so that it's not such a heavy lift next year. We know that counselors and career center folks and just everyone, the boots on the ground at the schools, are really inundated with social emotional learning pieces this year and social emotional supports that are needed for students who are coming back from being in a year of distance learning. And so that's how we've been able to kind of leverage those conversations for us to be able to go in and say, hey, this is coming next year. We don't want to wait till next year to see what we can do. Allow your counselors, well, let us support you, let us work alongside you, but let's allow them to continue to focus on, those social emotional supports. And we can help you with figuring out ways to increase your financial aid completion rates, whether that be providing workshops, whether that's specific outreach to families via newsletters or postcards home. I mean, it's really creating a culture and a campaign around getting our county to buy in and to want to complete those applications and to understand the importance of completing them. So I think it's really twofold. It's making sure they understand that we're there to support, and let them know that, hey, we know it's a year out. We know it's not an immediate priority, but it's going to come, and we want to see what we can do this year to make sure that we get some uh, processes in place that can help meet their needs next year.
And then Matthew, just to follow up, I do know that most of you do know her, but Catalina Cifuentes is our executive director here at RCOE for the College and Career Readiness Unit. And she's been working tirelessly with our school districts, with our county, making sure that the different initiatives that we have going on with Race to Submit, with working with CSAC, and working with the different counties and across the state, and even with across the nation, with different boards that she's working with, she has been pushing that. So I have the privilege of working the same county office with her. I know she will be presenting later on today about her different work as well. So she is definitely one who is trailblazing the work that we're doing as well.
Great, thank you.
Well, if there are no further questions, our presentation is uploaded. As Matthew said, it is in the Attendify platform, so you can reach it there, along with our contact information if you come, have some questions after. Have a great rest of the conference and afternoon, and a fabulous weekend. And thank you for sharing some of your time with us this morning.